I just found out that my fiancé left his ex-wife because she had cancer. I'm pregnant. Aside from what did or didn't happen with Anna, the biggest issue I would have if I were you is his lack of forthcoming honesty with you and his dismissal of your feelings now. He lied about his prior relationship and who the commenter was while you were totally honest about yours. He doesn't get to be annoyed now that you found out what he lied about and are understandably seeing him differently. I also hate when people throw out you're being emotional in these situations. 1. What's wrong with being emotional? Are we robots who can just absorb anything that comes our way without reacting emotionally? 2. If you can't be emotional with your partner, who can you be emotional with? 3. He too is being emotional. He just thinks he isn't and wants to pretend he's cool and rational and calm when he's actually acting out of the emotion of annoyance. As you said, and probably a lot of others, I would focus less on what may or may not have happened with Anna and more on the fact that you now know he is okay lying to you about both major, how his marriage ended, and minor, who the commenter was, things if it conveniences him, and that instead of being honest with you, his go-to is to be defensive and shady. What else has he lied about? Or at least neglected to share with you? What will he lie or neglect to tell you about in the future? Secondly, I would be worried about how dismissive he is being now. Is that how he usually responds to you? Is that how every difficult conversation with him will go? Personally, I could not marry someone once I found out he hadn't been totally open about his life with me, the person about to become his lifelong partner. But you'll have to figure that out yourself. Edit. Also, pregnancy and childbirth are major, life-threatening medical events. Plenty of women continue to die before and during birth in the US. After that, the first year of parenthood is tough, and you'll be entirely focused on keeping your baby alive while recuperating from the aforementioned major medical event you just went through. If he loves you because you can sense his needs, you won't be able to sense, much less meet, his needs very well for the next // 5 years, and you'll need him to go above and beyond to meet your needs. Given what you've described, I think you're right to be worried. Honestly, a man dismissing genuine anger and concern as hormones or being emotional makes me see red. Also, like you said, what's wrong with being emotional? Humans have emotions. That's a thing. This exactly. He is selfish, and it looks like he is gaslighting Opus. Op is saying to him what she is worried about, and he blames this on hormones basically. He should have stayed with his wife after she received a cancer diagnosis. Op should be sure that he will not leave her if she has any complication, and he needs to serve her needs. Your second to last paragraph describes my STBXH to a T. I was his emotional support person for the first 12 years of our relationship. When our son was born, I now had someone else whose feelings / needs to tend to, not to mention my own stresses of new parenthood / work life. For the last 2 years of the marriage he regularly invalidated my emotions. In addition to telling me how I felt, I would not marry this person. He is emotionally abusive. It will get worse once a child arrives and you can't dote on him. I think that's a really interesting point you made about how he got jealous of the attention you paid to your child. And I hope Bob makes a note of this information as something to look out for as things move forward. It's scary how common this is and makes me very relieved to not be married tbh. I love you because of how you benefit me is basically what I gathered from this. Also, that hormone talk is just a cop-out. He's gaslighting you. It's up to you what to do, but I wouldn't put up with it. Also, I left her because she couldn't benefit me and I lack the ability to care for her selflessly. I guess if he's ashamed of his actions, that could explain some of the delay in informing Opus. But his gaslighting of Ob when she reacts says otherwise. I'm really sorry, Ob, but your fiancé sounds like a jerk that was decent at hiding it. You might agree and stay with him regardless. No judgment here. You do you and stay strong. I'm male and there is no way treating my partner like this would be okay. This is just fucked up. Props to you. Seriously, if you have a son or daughter, please pass on these values. I'm not really relationship material. I have way too many problems to be trying to have anyone else deal with them. I go on dates sometimes to have a nice time, and talk and do neat activities, but that's about where it ends. I don't even try and sleep with any of them. Because an ex gave me insta and I'm not tryna do anyone else like that. There's actual research showing that men are way more likely to leave a sick female partner. So much so that they ask women if they have other forms of support once a diagnosis is made. This would alarm me. It's very true. I'm chronically ill. My husband hasn't left me physically, but he has mentally checked out of our marriage. He was so used to me doing everything 24/7, and he's just checked out at home. He hates having to do more around the house and actually parent our kids. It's a hard pill to swallow. Someone you've supported and stood by for years, the second you need them more they check out. I'm sorry you're going through that. Honestly, I wanted to leave before I got sick. It was having a 5th child, and since my youngest was in school all day and I was working, it thought I'd be able to. Just my 2 cents, but what I can gather from reading this is that this is a worryingly selfish person. He left her when she got cancer, and he says he loves you because you can sense what he needs. And after all this, he thinks you need to control your emotions? I think it's a good thing you're waiting until the baby is here for you to marry. I personally would watch his behavior very closely during the pregnancy. Pregnancy is a very trying time for relationships. From what I've read, I feel like you would see his true colors during the pregnancy, and it wouldn't be good. Yes to this. If he sprints when the going gets tough, how would he manage being supportive when you are going through with your pregnancy and after the birth of your child? I'm sure it's not easy, and he would need to be there for you. The lying about the previous stuff is a bit odd too. Also, don't love how he's blaming his ex for being a harridan while dealing with cancer, and now is similarly blaming Op for being hormonal and irrational because she's pregnant. Is anything ever his fault, or is it always that the women around him are hysterical? Yes. I remember one of the red flags about an interest is when they talk about their exes. If it's always that B is crazy narrative, then it's usually something wrong with the interest than their exes. If he's lied about his divorce and the commentator online, who knows what else he's lying about? If he left his ex because she had cancer, who knows what he'll leave you for? From what Op has written, his ex-wife's behavior prior to the cancer diagnosis wasn't ideal in the fiancé's mind. It almost reads like he postponed a breakup to support his ex, but her behavior didn't change, and the lack of support for him was his breaking point. I would guess he didn't divulge this information, as I'm assuming he took a lot of S when he petitioned the divorce. It may have left him feeling like he will be judged very badly. All people will hear is he left his wife who was sick, and not his actual reasons for it. That being said, 4 years is a long time to keep it to himself. He could have mentioned it before now. I've been wondering about how he describes his ex as possessed and unappreciative even before the diagnosis, and says that's also why he left. Then he calls Op hormonal and irrational for being unhappy about his lies. He's done the same to the ex, which means he hadn't changed at all, and that doesn't bode well for Opus. I would check into couples counseling and keep the marriage paused until you resolve this. It's easier to break up instead of divorce. Lots of couples don't stay together in the events of illness. It doesn't always mean either one are terrible people. It might just mean they can't handle the other's emotional needs like they should have, because they weren't as in love as they thought they were before it happened. That being said, there still seems to be a bit of unknown about this. It's possible fiancé's ex took out her pain and misery on him. It's possible he's a jerk, but I would definitely look into counseling so an unbiased third-party professional could help you all navigate it. Please take this position into account. As possible, my mom stayed with my dad 4 years after his hips started to disintegrate, and he turned from an amazing dad to a mean, angry, and very toxic person. Pain can quite literally change someone's personality very drastically. We finally got dad moved out after he attempted suicide and threatened her, and they both did worlds better. After separation, my fiancé was in a horrible accident and had a bad B. His first wife stayed and really tried, but he admits he couldn't accept the slow recovery and that she was right to leave. They're still friends to this day. Staying is not always the right option. Leaving is not always either. It might be that this is a red flag. Or it might be that she really did turn into a different person or take her emotional pain out on him. And he's defensive because he was harshly judged by all their friends and family at the time for not sucking it up. Ask him to go to therapy with you and talk about his feelings, not yours. If you want to hear his side of the story and decide which, then you can figure out how you feel and talk about that together. Yes, my Bill is having health issues that involve a lot of pain and mobility issues, and he takes out a lot of his frustration on my sister, who I call a saint for putting up with it. But if she left, Reddit would say she's a B ///////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// she H for leaving her disabled husband. And maybe they'd be right. Two sides. I'd get an abortion and leave, or at least cancel the engagement until this matter is clarified. Get an abortion? That seems a bit harsh. The baby did nothing wrong. She can petition for sole custody and child support, however. Nothing harsh about getting an abortion. Presumably she didn't get pregnant assuming that she'd be raising the kid alone. There is no baby here, just a fetus that is easy to dispose of now, but that'll be an enormous burden for the rest of her life in a few months. If you pretend to love someone, but then leave them when they need you the most, knowing that they might be gone tomorrow, and then show no regrets, then you're just heartless. It was like nobody cared about him when he got a cold, except to caution him to not expose the cancer patient. Poor selfish P. Must be hard to see people care about the well-being of a cancer patient. I'm an oncology nurse, so I see a lot of things. I don't want to judge. We don't know what exactly how his was treated and what happened between his first marriage. People often underestimate the difficulties the caregivers go through, or primary caregiver. In most cases it's the spouses/children. We all know chemo is hard on the patient, but let's not forget the whole family is affected. Rules changes for everyone, and not everyone deal at the changes the same. As an example, the spouses could have to pick up extra work to compensate with the patient stopping working, or if they have to take a new role they aren't used. Finances is sadly often a very big hit in the family, as most families relies on two salaries. And we all know how finances can be stressful. More often, the whole family revolve around the cancer patient, and it can be hard for the family as only the cancer patient gets the pity. Everything you go through, it's always compared to the cancer patient having it more bad. I had some spouse coming to me saying that they feel exhausted, having dedicated their whole energy and feeling like a shadow of the patient, and their feelings are valid. That doesn't always make them selfish. The world is not white and black. A lot of chemo treatment can also cause mood swings, or even changes in behavior, which can also be hard to understand for the family and the patient itself. Sadly, a lot of husband leaves their wives during treatment. Some are pure dicks, like because wife lose breast/hair/not attractive. But some leave because they can't handle the changes. That's why family care is super important too, because in the end, they are the one living with the patient. It's important to also give the resources for the family to be able to support the patient, so stories like that don't happen. Cancer sucks, and in this case it doesn't sound like his marriage was in a good place before the diagnosis.